I think let's first agree that that national convention was a tea party of friends. The president was misled, invited to a tea party of friends who meet each other over tea and consolidate each other into a delegation. What informs that? Civil organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political youth organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political parties, because how do we test that we've got support? We test you through what you supported for. I'm saying if the Youth League is not there, whether it's EFFD, all of these parties, civil organizations that were knowing them are not there, even the foundations that represent integrity were not there. Now, obviously, it was clear that it was a platform created by opportunists to try to present that for the past 30 years, the ANC has done nothing for South Africans. It was a right-winger platform, anti-democracy, set up, programmed by people who are obsessed about taking the progressive out of power. That's how we've classified that thing. That's why I was saying that it must be corrected. The real national dialogue must be convened with the right people. Now, I fell on that one, SG, I must make that emphasis. On the issue of what the Minister of Mineral said, we agree with him. We want from soil to factory. We want to industrialize the economy. We're clear on that one. We're not apologetic. We've been consistent about export quotas. We have not moved from it. And with our new economic conditions and sanctions and all of these problems, you know why it's important that we create economic corridors and beneficiate our minerals here to create enough employment for our youth. And we strongly believe as the Youth League that if we create economic corridors and beneficiate in South Africa, the issue of unemployment will be the thing of the past. On the issue of spaza shops, foreigners doing it, we are aware of that. We've spoken against it. It's lawlessness. We can't have foreigners running around with guns, utilizing gangsters, saying that South Africans, the real owners of this land, must not participate in their own economy. Foreigners, if we go to a stage where foreigners do that, you must know we've reached a level of lawlessness. That's why we agree with the commission that has been set in place to investigate the corruption in the police and everyone that must enforce the law. Because who allows those foreigners to do that? And we'll wait for the outcomes of that, and we're sure it will confirm that. Which includes also the gender-based violence. The reason people end up taking the law into their own hands is because they no longer believe in the system, that the police will protect them anymore. And the moment people no longer believe that police will protect them, they'll take the law into their own hands. And we can afford as a country, as a young democracy, that we have lawlessness in this country. It will cause anarchy into the country. What do we mean when we say we want decisive leadership? We're clear. We want President Ramaphosa to decisively fire all ministers that are not implementing resolutions. We want the ANC to decisively remove all mayors, anybody else who's deployed by the African National Congress on behalf of the people of South Africa. They must be held accountable why there's no service delivery, why there's no implementations of resolutions, why there's chaos in this country. Now, we're saying President Ramaphosa must be decisively and fire them. That's what we mean when we say that we want decisive leadership who acts on people that are not implementing. We've agreed in the past that every Tuesday we'll hold them accountable here in our offices. We've started the process of doing that, and we'll be working together closely with the president, also putting him also under pressure. That the president will no longer have the luxury of time. We urgently need to regain the confidence of our people. And the only way to regain the confidence of our people is to implement what we've promised them, which is a better life for all. Now, that one is very urgent, which we mean that must happen urgently. We can't say there's a new Minister of Home Affairs. When good things are happening that the ANC government have done, they claim them as theirs. The issue of basic education, we know that the pit toilets and everything were removed by a minister of the ANC. But Mam Njimutseho can stand up and say, no, those things were done by me. When there's a new minister, he takes responsibility of everything, the good and the bad. Now, we're saying the Minister of Home Affairs must urgently take responsibility and fight against the corruption that is happening at Home Affairs. It's a known corruption. I wonder what is happening at Jimmy State Home Affairs now that there's bent down. I'm sure the corruption is now at steroids, because now there's no longer systems. People are given IDs behind the booths outside parking lots. Now I can imagine if corruption happens in buildings, what will happen in parking lots? It's even worse. I'm sure there are new Nigerians now who are South Africans since the burning of Jimmy State. Now that corruption must be resolved urgently. We can't allow that corruption to happen. including the hijacking of buildings. We can accept that towns like Bosberg, Germiston, Johannesburg, foreigners just hijack buildings and nothing happens. Now we're saying that the law must be enforced. In the middle of all of these problems we're faced with, on top of all the problems we're faced with youth unemployment and the disaster we're faced with, on the center of our main problems is the lack of law enforcement. Now, when the law can be enforced, some of the issues can be resolved and we'll be able to answer them. On the issue of the research, whether the health system or the education system of illegal foreigners are heavy on them, it's evident. If you stay in South Africa and you go to a public service, you'll know that foreigners, illegal foreigners, are heavy on our health system. And due to our human rights commissions, you can't chase out people when they are sick. It's inhuman. But they are heavy on the system. They are heavy on because we budget for people who have counted in this country. If you have counted 64 million people and you are saying 20 million people are school-going people, you budget for those people, and the infrastructure budget is on those bases. Now, if there's someone who enters illegally, that person is heavy on the infrastructure because it's not budgeted for. But we're saying that more must be done. I agree with you. More must be done. We need to invest more on the health system. It's in some areas it's collapsing. We need to build more schools. We've seen a video not long ago going rounds of young people who are still crossing rivers, going to schools. It can happen in 31 years later in South Africa. Those are issues that must be resolved. It can't be that 31 years later in democracy, we still have young people who walk kilometers crossing dams in danger to access education. Now, we're saying those are things that must be resolved on urgent basis. And if not resolved, it will cause problems for all of us South Africans. The issue of a young lady who was in the Fees Must Fall, Nompendulo. There's nothing wrong with a young lady being deployed. We're not saying there's a problem with them. We say one more. We're not anti-youth being deployed. She's a young lady who was excelling also in Parliament. We believe that she can contribute also on this dialogue. She's a young lady who has got a stature of a person who can contribute to that. We're going to convene her to also come and brief us. And there's also another young person there who's got a planet named after. It's a young person of the Siyakusa, a young person of the movement. We embrace them. But we're saying that all decision-making bodies in South Africa must reflect the demographics of this country, which is youth in majority. We're saying the task teams that are set in place to plan these things must be root reflective. If you are taking only 0.1% and say it's youth and make them the faces, and what they do, these old people, they put young people there so they are communicators of bad news. What they do, they sit back. You'll see very soon, Nompendulo, all the bad things that happen, they'll put Nompendulo as a face of the national dialogue. When things go good, they put old people as a face of the good things. The bad things is Nompendulo, the good things is the old people. Now, those things, we're watching them. They want to use the young girl unnecessarily. We're behind there, we're watching her closely. We'll be coaching her close that don't be a communicator of bad news. Be a communicator of good news because the future of the country belongs to the youth. Thanks.